What is going on, guys? Carter here with Edge Mindset. I am your host. Thank you for joining me on this channel. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification, all that kind of stuff. That was kind of a weird, gross movement right there. Do all that. Helps me out, keeps me motivated. Let's run these videos up if you can, if you care. If you don't, that's fine too. But you're here now. Be with me now. Let's talk about this knife. So, oh my gosh. Okay, we are off to a bad start to an amazing knife. Bad start to an amazing knife. This is the Prince Customs Protean. I believe that's how it's pronounced. I've heard a couple different pronunciations. I'm going with Protean. This is an absolute amazing knife. I'm not going to say game changer. That's hyperbolic. It is a really strong contender for one of the best small batch USA made fully machined knives out there. All right, so I got to caveat that because this is expensive. This isn't cheap. This doesn't appeal to everybody. Not everybody can afford this. Not everybody wants to afford this. These run in the 700s retail price, and then secondary market, they tend to be a little more expensive. Not too bad, actually. Right now, the hype on these is still kind of mild. I think it's going to continue to grow as more and more people kind of get turned on to this knife here. So what are we looking at here? Prince Customs, owned by Princeton Wong and I believe his wife. I'm assuming it's his wife. So they own this company. They're based out of Texas. And here's what I want to say about Princeton, right? Based on what I know, the sleuthing that I've done online, right? Because I do that. I poke around, I look for information. From what I understand, he is a 100% stand-up guy. He is a professional. He's treating his company like a business with customer service and quality as a high priority. Everything that comes into his shop is 100% insured. That is not something I've seen other companies really tout. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I just haven't heard them mention it. So it's those kind of touches, right? Like he is doing this professionally. Everything I've heard about him is that he is a stand-up guy, really nice, and he'll take care of you and make things right. And the reason I point this out is in the knife industry, particularly with US makers, whether they're full, old school custom makers or new CNC makers, sometimes these individuals, they're regular Joes, right? They want to make knives. They're not businessmen. They don't necessarily have customer service as their top skill. They just want to make knives. They start making knives, and it can kind of create problems. They don't always handle their business as professionally as they could. They don't prepare for issues, right? Making sure they have enough money on hand in case machines go out or they get injured, and they get themselves in trouble sometimes. And then people are out money or out knives or both. And, it can kind of be a bad look. It's something that has been happening in the knife industry for as long as I remember. But Princeton is doing this, I don't know. He seems to be handling this as one should, right? He's doing this as a real business venture where he wants to take care of people, and he's super cool. I'm not affiliated with Prince Knives. I didn't get a cutback. I paid for this knife wholly out of pocket. Got this in a drop. I was lucky enough to score this on a second drop that he did for newsletter subscribers only. And really happy with this one. It's kind of like my perfect config, I think. Like that never, I'm spitting all over the knife. That never happens, right? Usually when I get something in a drop, it's, I like it, it's close, but it's not my ideal config. And I usually got to pay extra money on the secondary to get that. But this one is an absolute banger of a knife. So he does a couple different, we'll get into the full review here in a second, but he does a bunch of different versions of this. You can get it in a harpoon sheep's foot, Warncliffe, like a sheep's poon, I think is what you would call it. Sheep's foot harpoon, as well as this blade style. I forget what he calls this. It's got a very interesting name. It's almost like a trailing point Persian style, but not really, but it kind of makes me feel like it is. All different kinds of milling, anodization patterns. There's dragon scales, there's diamonds, there's knurling like this one. This one has satin flats. You can get it without satin flats, different anodization colors, Zer-blasted, all kinds of stuff, as well as full skeletonization, partial skeletonization, all that kind of stuff. different versions. Now, this hasn't been out for all that long. I think it debuted last year. Prince Customs wins all kinds of awards at knife shows. He also does custom knives. He does pew-pew modification. I hate saying pew-pew, but I can't, I got to be careful. All kinds of work that they do in their machine shop. And I think 2025, 2026 is going to be the year of Prince Customs, especially the Protean here. He designed this specifically to be a very EDC-friendly knife, which it is, as well as being able to accommodate all different kinds of blade shapes and profiles, which is really, really cool. But I got to admit, this OG-style blade is the winner. This thing is just slick. So if you're into like the Oz Rosie stuff, Oz Machine Company Rosie, you are going to love this, especially if you want a knife with a little more pizzazz and a little more style. So, all right, enough yippity yapping. Let's get into kind of the formal review, and we'll go over all kinds of things, give you my impression. So 3 1/4 inch blade. Overall length is about 7 1/4, maybe just under. So it kind of hits that sweet spot of not too small, but not too big. The weight on this thing is bonkers, 3.4 ounces. Oh, it's so lightweight. And if you want to go even more lightweight, get one of the skeletonized versions. Almost too lightweight for me. I can't handle knives that are that lightweight. Here it is compared to a Paramilitary 2. You can see, much more pocketable, much slimmer, just really, really nice. And here it is compared to the Chavez CK something 9. I always forget the name of this one. I struggle with knives that don't have names, that have like numbers and letters and stuff. But this is the smallest Chavez folder. You can see very, very similar. So if you like this guy, I think you're going to like this guy as well. So the specs on this, we've actually got the card in this box right here. Serial number 400, which is pretty cool. 20 CV blade, titanium frame lock, and there's his signature there. Hollow ground, nice and thin behind the edge, but it actually gets quite thick at the tip there. And you can see how he chose to lay that secondary bevel back to kind of keep some good cutting geometry, but it still has a very thick, robust tip, fairly thick blade stock for such a small knife. Got a nice swedge up top, beautiful kind of blasted blade that has some remnants of texture from the machining on it, which I like. I don't really like micro milling on my blades. I do like the way Stout does kind of the big, thick milling, but I don't like the micro milling. It just makes me think it's unfinished. But Princeton Wong did not do that here. He finished that blade, and it kind of leaves a cool acid wash finish on there. Got an opening pocket, really nice jimping at the top. Small details like he took the corner off of that edge right there, right? He just kind of ground that off a little bit because it serves no purpose, and it kind of just gives you a cleaner edge look and doesn't give you anything poking through on this side. I assume he did that because you could technically jam your pinky finger in there and potentially cause some issues on that edge poking through right there. Need to clean this up a little bit. Got some gunk on the very edge of that blade right there. Titanium frame lock, like we mentioned. You've got nice kind of chamfering going on here. It's a concave milled in here and here. You got flats. Beautiful custom pivot. Really nice pocket clip. It's a little on the large side. Some people might not like that. I think it's great. Works wonderfully well. It doesn't bind up. The tension on this thing is perfect. It's a fairly deep carry for a milled titanium pocket clip. You can see how it's pocketed all the way up to the top there. Very, very cool. Nice and perfectly centered. Floating back spacer, if my camera wants to focus. So all of this is floating right here. You can see the post right there, floats in the middle, and then there's a post right there. I really like that subtle touch. He's not hitting you over the head with it being a floating back spacer, like, look what I did, look at me, right? It's a very subtle thing that you would notice. He's got the information of the knife milled on the inside here, serial number, date, and of course the model name right there. You can tell by the weight, the 3.4 ounces, it's heavily pocketed inside, you can see. One thing I really appreciate about this is how much room you have to unlock the knife here. He's got heavy pocketing on both sides. It is so easy to get in here. Lock bar insert, you don't always get that on USA made small batch knives. This one does have the lock bar insert right there. Action is crazy drop shutty for such a light blade. It just drops absolutely shut. The lockup is completely rock solid on this thing. Pretty crazy to tune. Like if you don't know, tuning a knife like that where it floats shut, but still has a very crisp, I mean, look at that detent strength. Very crisp detent. Because one way to kind of hammer fist your way into a strong detent that gives you snappy action is just to put a lot of tension on that lock bar, but then that'll slow the blade down when closing. This doesn't do that at all. So he's got this thing tuned so well that he doesn't need a ton of lock bar pressure to get a crisp, tight detent, and that means it can just float down. Running on bearings, I'm going to actually throw some skiffs in here, like real skiffs. I've never put actual skiffs in a knife. I've put their thick washers in knives before, but I've never swapped out for actual skiffs. And I want to see if I notice any change. I want to see if it has any more stability, if it's any smoother. I don't see how it could possibly be any smoother, but I'm going to give it a shot. Ergonomics on this thing is fantastic. Like, it just has that really nice handle shape where your two fingers come up here and then your back two fingers sit below here, and then this kind of curves into your palm. It is fan-freaking-tastic. You can grab the pockets right here for a pinch grip. Very, very comfortable. This thing is just designed so well. This style of knife isn't really my top cup of tea. If you followed my channel, you know I tend to like, for lack of better words, kind of clunkier, heavier knives with manual type action. The kind of flicky, lightweight, drop shutty stuff. I appreciate what it takes to make that happen. I get why other people are into it. It's just never really been my thing, which is why I don't have a Koenig Arius. I don't have an Oz Rosie in my collection right now. I have owned both of those. I don't have a Eutsler DUKling or anything. I haven't really been interested. But this one I am. This one does something for me. The profile on this thing is fantastic. It's one of those knives where right when I think that you can't come up with a new, refreshing, interesting design, something like this pops up. It doesn't look like anything else. I don't think anybody's out here saying this looks like a slightly modified version of X, or it looks like they just took this and did a frame lock version. This, in my opinion, and you know, I could be wrong, I haven't seen everything out there, is a wholly new design that came out in 2024, which is wild. And, you know, I'm not saying new designs don't come out, but designs that are striking enough to catch your attention that don't look like a different version of some other knife that's been out there before. Pretty impressive, pretty impressive. I love this blade profile. It's also very utilitarian. You've got the flat here with a little bit of belly. You know, tip might be a little high for some, but that's why you would get the Wharncliffe version if that's what you're into. The Wharncliffe is nice, but doesn't look as striking as this blade profile here. It is really, really cool. Check it out. Prince Customs Protean. You're going to be seeing more and more of this knife, I think, as time goes on. More people catch on to this knife, and more people get to meet Princeton, who seems like a really awesome guy. I know I want to meet him. I'm hoping he makes it out to Blade Show West magically. Since he's from Texas, it's not too far. Maybe he'll be there. That would be really, really cool. But comment down below, what do you think of the Protean from Prince Customs?